Welcome to a video for Homework Help, Unit 3, Lesson 11. Let's go ahead and get started. There's going to be a lot of blanks to fill in here. That's why we're showing 22 points for this assignment. What I'd like to just start out with here is taking the thought process of what is it that I have to know to be able to accomplish the task today. Remember that we talked a lot about slope-intercept form. Y is equal to slope times x plus b, where we have x and y make up ordered pairs. These are always variables until we need to use them, talking about right here, when we need to check to see if the graph that I drew is correct. M is always going to be the coefficient of x and represent our slope. It may not be the letter M, but that's the placement of it. It will always be the coefficient of x, always be multiplied by x. B will always represent the y coordinate of the y-intercept. It may not always be the letter B, but what I can tell you for sure is these two values will be numbers, while x and y will always be variables. So pay close attention to that. What does that mean for us here? Well, when we look at our equation here, y is equal to negative 4 times x minus 1. The negative 4 is the coefficient, making that the slope. The negative 1, or the minus 1, is our constant, making that b. Now, how does that help us? Well, when we're talking about starting with the y-intercept, then we can figure out how would I write the ordered pair for the y-intercept being negative 1. Which one of these will represent that? Make your choice. And then when I talk about the slope, I'm talking about the minus 4. How would I reuse the minus 4? I would use the slope of, obviously it's negative 4, so I've already given you that one right there. And how would I move on this one? I would move down, what, 1 unit or down 4 units? And then I would move to the right, either 1 unit or 4 units. Need to understand those pieces. Now let's say when I get going done on this, I want to identify coordinates, right? I want to check to see if my graph that I drew is correct. I want to pick out any coordinates of some of the points on the x-axis, the line, or the y-axis. Seems kind of silly that we would pick points anywhere but on the line. And to know if those lines are going to work, we want to substitute those lines, those points into the equation in for x and y, right in here. And we want to figure out if the equation, plugging in or substituting those values, is true. Okay? Next question. This one has 2 parts, so don't lose one of them. In this part, we want to pay very close attention to the slope and y-intercept. If I'm looking for an equation that has a slope of 0 and a y-intercept of 5, I want to come down here and look at each of these and compare and look and say, where do I see a y-intercept of 5 or a slope of 0? This one has a y-intercept of negative 1, y-intercept of positive 1, y-intercept of negative 1, but this one just has a 5. What does that mean? Well, if the slope is 0, let's plug in the 0 and see what happens. Y is equal to 0 times x plus 5. I know that 0 times x is simply just 0, and what that leaves me with, there's really no need to write this in here, leaves me with y equals 5. What does that tell me? It tells me that this equation right here has a slope of 0 and a y-intercept of 5. Continue to find the right y-intercepts, the right slopes, drag and drop into the correct places. On the next part of it, part B, you're working with a graph, and we have to match the slope and the y-intercept with the correct graph. What we should do on this one is go ahead and take our information that we're given and work with that information. I'm going to go ahead and talk about this line up here. What I notice about this line right here is it crosses the y-axis right there. That y-axis is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's at 0, 5. And then I see that it's a horizontal line. And I just learned in the lesson today that horizontal lines have a slope that equals 0. So what do I do with that one? Well, now I look down here into my just below the instructions. I look at the lines that I'm given, and I want to find the line that has a slope of 0 and a y-intercept of 5. And I know that that slope right here, this is going to be the graph of A. So coming down, working off of my other stuff, I want to look down here at the options down here. I want to find graph A, and I want to drag it right here to match that, recognizing that graph A has a slope of 0, as we see right here, and a y-intercept of 0, 5, so that one must match. Problem 3, more with slope and y-intercept, but more in this case, I'm talking about simply just vertical and horizontal lines. A little bit tricky on this one because there's little boxes that are almost hidden right here. They're really hard to see. What we're supposed to do with these little boxes is find the line or find the equation that matches to that line. And what you'll notice is as we pick it up, like when we're talking about x equals -1, think about what that means. If x equals -1, then all x coordinates are equal to -1. So of all of these x coordinates, which line has all x coordinates being equal to -1? That would be our green line. And what you'll notice as I drag that into there, we see that the little blue dashed line shows up. We drop it, and then that one is in its place. Do the same thing with the other lines. The final question, again, talks about slope and y-intercept. I'm going to specifically talk about part A and part C because they are directly related. In this case, a publisher wants to find out how thick their new book will be. The book has a front cover and back cover, each of which have a thickness of 1/4 of an inch. That's a big deal because together that's 1/4 for the front and 1/4 for the back, meaning that we have a total thickness of 1/2 of an inch. That becomes a constant rate, or excuse me, that becomes a constant value for every single book. If we want to have that value added in with the other piece, talking about bond paper, we get 1/4 of an inch thick for every 100 pages that we use. Complete the equation for the width of the book, y, if it has x 100 pages. The cool thing about x 100 pages is we know that that x 100 pages is 1/4 inch per 100. So right here, this is 1/4 per 100 pages. Now, how do I use that? Well, we come over in here, print it on bond, write the fractions in the form a over b. So we have to use fractional values. And when we put this in here, the constant value, let's think about the covers first. The covers together are 1/2 of an inch. And then the paper is 1/4 of an inch per 100 pages. There we go. Suppose that they instead choose front and back covers with a thickness of 1/3 of an inch. Change the equation from part A to reflect the changes in a cover. Write the fractions in the form a over b. Well, what changed? The thickness of the paper didn't change because we're using the exact same paper, but the covers did change. 1/3 for the front, 1/3 for the back means 2/3 of an inch just for the covers. There you go. Work off of part B, part D, using the information that I just gave you right here. Hopefully it will make a little bit of sense. If not, send me a message. I'll get you some help. Have a great day.